Y'all, it's Hope here at Crafty Hope, and welcome. I am working on Index Card a Day, and it is a challenge that ran through June and July, and it runs each June and July. It comes from Tammy Garcia, that you can find at daisyellowart.com or as Gypsy999 on Instagram. I'll put all her links below. Tammy provides daily prompts and weekly themes for this challenge, but really the whole idea is to take an index card and create some art on it every day for the 61 days. In addition, my friend Nina Fickett hosts Mixed Media ICAD and has her own set of prompts. Now, again, the prompts are absolutely just there either way from Tammy or Nina to give you some inspiration to get started. So sometimes I use them, sometimes I don't. This card you see me working on today, or this first one, I'm going to show you 3 in here, 28, 29, and 30. And on day 28, the 2 prompts were Steampunk and die cut, and I am going to use both of those prompts. So I showed you a couple things. I had pulled out some steampunky type elements, I think some like cogs and things like that, and then some words I had laser cut from some die cut from Tim Holtz dies. So as I like to do, I am collaging. It is a good base for me. It kind of gets me going, gets me inspired to get started. I don't start with that blank white card. So I've thrown down a couple of things on here. I think there's this part of a security envelope and a dictionary page, some kind of tissue paper. This is a part of a napkin, I think. Oh no, it's also tissue paper. So just some things to give me a bit of background going into this. And I'm kind of sticking to neutrals, knowing that this is supposed to have a steampunk feel to it. So I'm using fluid matte medium from Liquitex and it's a cosmetic facial mask spreader, I think is what it is too. It's just a silicone like spatula type thing. So next thing I have, this is it's like a washi tape, but it's tissue thin. So it's a tissue tape is what it is. That's got like cogs and wheels on it that fits in with that steampunk kind of style. So that's what I've got down there just because I love this tape. It's, I don't know. It's a little finicky. I cut out parts where I was trying to get it to unroll because I was having trouble. But you can see I am just layering it on, and I've got plenty of it. I don't know why I don't use it more often. It's one of those things that feels like it is too precious to use or something. And you're not, in the end result, you don't really see, if you look hard, you can see this, but it really just adds a bit of texture to it. So once I had all that down, you saw I dried it, and that was mostly to dry up that fluid matte medium. And then I'm going to trim off the excess. Now, I don't know why I have to trim off the excess. It's one of those things that sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but yeah. And then I grabbed some distress spray stains from Tim Holtz. This one, I believe, okay, I think I've got Rusty Hinge, Tea Dye, and it's the metallic one, tarnished brass. Yeah, that's what this one's gonna be. And you can see I'm just putting a tiny bit on here, and that one is clogged up. I'm trying to get it out, so I think I'm just gonna pull that stem out there and splatter it on here. And then, do I add water to it? We're gonna see. I think I do, to get it to move around just a little bit. And I'm going to do that with a paintbrush because I didn't want it to go, I wanted it to be very precise in where this went. I didn't want it to just ooze all over the card and become one big mess. But honestly, y'all, in the end, it really doesn't matter with this. So the whole thing ends up feeling fairly rusty, which to me feels kind of steampunky. So that works. And you can see once I moved it around a little bit, I did splatter some of what was on the paintbrush onto the card, and I dried it just a little bit, and the stuff that was kind of like not drying, I picked up and moved it around a little bit more before finally getting it good and dry. So I tried a different stamp at first, but it did not show up on this card, and ended up going to this hand carved stamp of mine. It's carved on an eraser and some distress oxide in black soot. Now, what I really love doing, if you've seen me use any of my hand carved stamps and any of the distress oxides or inks, is once I stamp, I like to come in with a paintbrush and kind of blur some of the edges of what I've stamped, because the distress products are usually water reactive. So yeah, it's just kind of fun to play with. So I did blur the edges of that like floral-ish stamp, which really doesn't have anything to do with the steampunk. I really wanted just a bit more texture in the background. So I have these rub-ons, and I thought I was maybe going to use them because they felt kind of steampunky to me, but I changed my mind. And yeah, you'll see them later in this video on one of the other cards, but they're not going to come into play in this one. Instead, I have this, y'all, it's like a white out roller thing. And I have a really hard time using it. You can see, I was having trouble getting it to go, but I really wanted just a bit of white on here. And I have found that the white out products or some kind of correction fluid, that kind of thing, tends to give you a really solid white. So I thought I'd pick this up with some of the school supplies that are out, as school is about to start. And yeah, thought, okay, well, let's see how this works. And I'm not sold on it here. I do prefer the pin style as opposed to this little other thing, but it was fun to play with. So then I pulled out, you can see these little cogs and wheels and whatever they are. I also, it's kind of hard to see, I've got a little arrow there too that I decided would fit really nicely on top of one of the cogs. So I've got two little cog wheels there and an arrow, and I'm sorry it's so hard to see. All of this is very metallic, and yeah, it kind of blends in together. This card definitely does not make like a bold statement. It sticks in the very like neutral and rusty browns that are that kind of steampunk style. So there's my steampunk of it, and then I've got, and y'all, I can't remember what the die set is. I will try to put it below, but it's I think it's almost all just these words. Yeah, it is. It's just a bunch of words that punches out the letters and the words, and you can use the letters or you can use the words with these. And yeah, so I cut out the word journey. You can see some of the letters haven't fallen out quite yet of the word, but I thought journey was a good one for like the steampunky style. I think that, I don't know why you always see people, it's like steam engines and that kind of thing. So it felt right. But I cut this out of some, you can see, craft cardstock, and it's definitely going to need to be altered a bit so it pops just a touch more. So what I'm going to do is pull out my Delta, no, I'm sorry, no, it is going to be my Delta Cream Coat, yeah, Delta Cream Coat 14 karat gold craft paint, and I start to paint it, and I was like, oh no, this has lots of angles and edges, so what I want to use is my jelly plate. So I'm going to get my little 3x5 jelly plate, and I'm going to tell you, I have been linking this jelly plate over on Amazon, and for some reason it is like crazy expensive. It's just as expensive as some of the larger jelly plates. I only use this size because I can keep it stashed near my desk without it taking up too much room. So if you have a larger size jelly plate, definitely go with that. Or if you could find another small one that works the same way, definitely go for that. But I will link this 3x5 one below. But know that I don't know why it's priced so high. So I like to, when something has like lots of holes, it is die cut like this or laser cut. I have found that painting them this way by putting the paint on the jelly plate and then picking up the paint with the cut item is a lot easier than trying to paint over all those holes. It's just been what works for me. So I did touch it up a little with the paintbrush, but yeah, it's all painted gold. That definitely pops a bit more. Looking at it now, I kind of wish, I don't know, I kind of wish I had raised it maybe with some, what's it called? Foam tape, double-sided foam tape to give it that more 3D effect. But that's a good idea for me to keep in mind later. I did ink the edges of that with the Distress Oxide in Black Soot, and I'm activating that just a little bit with that flat paintbrush to frame this card up. Once I get it framed up, it's really just a matter of starting to get things where I want them. So I think I'm going to play with this just a little bit more, thinking on what it needs to be. So, no, first I'm going to dry it because everything's still kind of wet. I dried the Journey card as well as the edging I did. And here's me once again kind of playing with these things. I wanted those cogs to kind of be connected some way because, yeah, that's how like cogs like that work. I'm going to add a little bit more of the rusty hinge on the card. It just wasn't dark enough, I guess, in that area. And once again, I will dry it. It's just a process. I try to make these cards a little more precious than they are. Working in this size is a great way to experiment without having to go super large. So I really don't need to be so precious with it, but I tend to get that way. I did ink the edges also of and that's just with Distress ink in Black Soot before I stuck it down with my Uhu glue stick. And you saw I put the glue stick onto my card and not onto the word because there's so many holes in that. It would have been a nightmare. And I've got another little silicone spatula tool to kind of press that down. Yeah, I'm doing anything I can to try to press it down without getting everything sticky. And I'll use E6000 to stick down my little metal elements. Again, it's 2 little cogs in a wheel. And y'all, I can see what I'm doing here. That word is a little cattywampus. And I wish I could have seen it in time and gotten it up. But it's not too bad. It's just enough that bothered me. So I'm going to use the E6000 and a toothpick to try to contain the glue so it's not everywhere and get those pieces down. And then I think that's going to be it for this card. Like I said, it is number 28 in this series, and we're going to go up to 61 before I get done. So I've got a few more months probably of sharing these ICADs with you. I've heard from several of you that said that you wanted me to keep them coming, so we're keeping them coming. I will say that this set of 3 are not some of my favorites, but they are like interesting in the techniques I used. Okay, I'm going to give you a quick look at this card before we get to card number 29. On day 29, the prompts are sepia and rice paper. And I had a couple things you can see over on the left of me. I've got an ink pad there, and the shade of it is sepia, so I definitely was going to bring that in. And I've got some paper that I'll include in here that could be rice paper, but I can't be sure. You'll see it in a bit. So once again, I'm starting with my Liquitex Fluid Matte Medium, and this is some paper. This is some kind of old, it's not really, it's a ledger, but it didn't have writing in it, and it's probably from like the 70s or 80s. And I had pulled it out and used a paint pen to do some mark making on it, and it works great as a collage paper. So I'm sticking that whole thing down, or I'm trying to. As you see, I'm struggling a bit there. To get it to stick on all the corners. Why are the corners such a problem? I mean, do y'all have the problem with corners I have? It's so crazy. Anyway, I do trim that excess off once again. And y'all, these scissors are getting, I may have to replace these so long because I'm trimming things like that where the medium is seeping out the sides. So it's like, oh no. Those scissors get ickied up plenty. So I did also have this Lindy's Stamp Gang spray in, I believe it's actually Steampunk sepia. So it kind of goes with the previous day's prompt as well. And you can see I sprayed it a little bit and just took some water to pull that color out in a couple places. Now this is the paper I have that I think might be rice paper, and I probably should have looked up rice paper. You can see there I'm looking at the tags that are on it, trying to see if it says what it is, and I don't know. It's a bundle I bought at an estate sale at the home of an artist, and just got these rolls for a really good price. And like I said, I'm not sure if it's actual rice paper, but the prompt inspired me to use this paper that I never turn to. So I was inspired by the prompt, but I can't be sure I used the prompt exactly. So anyway, I'm going to stick this whatever kind of paper it is down. And I really should do some research on what rice paper looks like, I suppose, so that I know better for the next time I go to use this, or maybe just figure out what this is. And I do have a problem of putting down enough of the medium, so I'm going to take a little bit of extra time to get those down. And you can see that paper that I put down didn't leave too much of an impact, except over on that right side. That piece had this little bits of music paper kind of embedded in it, so that actually made a statement there. From there, I'm like, okay, well, I've got this stamp pad that's the sepia color. I'm going to find a stamp, and I chose this one that kind of looks like some kind of plant or something, and I just wanted it for texture, so I'm going to put it down in a couple places. Now, y'all, I just told y'all that these 3 cards were not my 3 favorite cards of this project, and this card in particular, I like it. I like the play I did with it, but it's a little odd for me. It doesn't have hardly any 3D elements to it. It's going to be mostly paint and play, and it's unique, and I like it for like maybe a background texture or something, but the whole card in itself is a little random for me. It's not my typical style, so I can't decide quite how I feel about it. I have pulled out my favorite Americana paint in sea glass, and I'm painting these almost like circle shapes around on the card. You can see, putting them on there, and I don't know what I thought I was doing here. But I did it. So, and I'm playing, you can see I added a little water there, trying to get it to bleed on the inside. And those big plus signs that we started with are pretty much gone. They do make a bit of a statement in the finished card, because they're like spots of black that, don't seem to really quite belong on this card. But I am blending that paint inward of these like random circles I've made. So from there, I go to this other paint, and y'all, I'm not positive which shade this is. It's probably, if that one was sea glass, this may be, I'm trying to think, sea aqua or something like that. Again, I will put it below in the description box. I'm thinking it's not sea aqua, but it's maybe sea breeze. Oh, I think it may be sea breeze. Yeah, that sounds right. And I'm going, just hitting a couple areas inside these circles I've made. I had no plan of action here. This was me just playing with some paints and some colors that I liked. And these 2 colors are really pretty similar, so when it's dry, you can see there's a slight variation in the colors, but I don't know. Like I said, it's not my usual style, but it was fun to play. So I'm going to dry all this paint and come back in with, this is an R2 rollerball pen from the Dollar Tree. I'm making circles. Yeah, I'm kind of like defining the circles I've created there, which gives it, y'all, it makes it so very distinct there. It's suddenly like, oh, okay, that's what that looks like. But I also know that pen is also water reactive, so I am going to activate that pen. And I'm trying to work pretty quickly because the ink on this will dry and not be as reactive. So I'm trying to do this pretty quickly. What I should have done is done a couple of the circles and then tried to bleed them in and then done a couple more, but it doesn't really matter. So there I've got this super bleediness. I will say that this looks to me like, I don't know, it feels very underwater to me, like you're inside coral looking out at the rest of the seafloor or something. It's very honeycomb effect. And it may be a technique I try another time, but it didn't connect with the prompts very much at all. But I suppose one of the prompts was a color and the other one was a material, I guess, a type of paper. So, I kind of was done with this. I wasn't sure what direction to take it. So I said, you know what, let's just stick a sentiment down, which I used my small talk stickers, grab the one that says come what may, because that's how I was feeling about this. And I'll stick it down using my Uhu glue stick and grab my Uniball Signo gold gel pen to frame it up a little and then just be done with this one, because come what may, it is done. All right, y'all, I'm gonna give you once again a look at this one real quick, and then we'll start on card 30. For day 30, the Daisy Yellow prompt is Parfait, and the Mixed Media ICAD prompt is Shade of a Color. And I set into this thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't like either one of those prompts. So I said, well, let's see if I can pull something out of I've got this box of what I consider focals, and right there sitting on top is, you can see, it's a Tim Holtz photo booth. I've got a piece of altered mica and a button, and it's all tacked together. It was something I made at some point and just kind of threw in that box. There's some watercolor elements along with some die cuts. And I pulled all these things out thinking, okay, I think I'm going to try to use these, but these two prompts don't really inspire me. I've been cleaning out lately and recently found that I had this book that I had done basically some kind of fodder, just took Stabilo and sprays and all kinds of stuff and put it in there to have stuff to collage later. And yeah, so I'm going to use this piece out of this book. And I'm going to stick it down, I think, just with my Uhu glue stick. Yep. I'm going to put that on my card and then stick that page down. Like I said, it's a page from a book with Stabilo all pencil, just some marks on it. That's all. No big deal. So, like I said, I did not feel super inspired by these two prompts, but as I was working, the idea of Parfait kind of kept coming back to me. There is a quote from Shrek, I think it's the first one, between Donkey and Shrek, in which Donkey says that ogres are like parfaits, they have layers. And of course, there like an argument ensues because onions also have layers, but I think of Parfait, I think of parfaits have layers. So I'm going to layer on here. So that book paper was my first layer. And these are some rub-ons from the Dollar Tree. You saw me pull them out, I think in the first card of this video. And I didn't use them, but they were still sitting on my desk 3 days later, 2 days later. And I was like, okay, we're going to use this for some mark making layer in the background. So I'm going to put down a few of these. I cut them off individually because I found for me that's the easiest way to work with them. I have a tool that's supposed to work well with rub-ons, but I found that my bone folder work the best. So I'm going to go through and rub on these letters. I have a huge collection of rub-ons. I'm constantly looking for more because there's something about them that they rub on so they don't add any bulk when you are working. They just add that like kind of background texture, whereas like a sticker or something, you get a line. Like if you're drawing on over it, you've got like a bump that you have to go over with your pen or pencil, and with these rub-ons you don't have that. They're just there. Now, some of them are harder to get on than others, but I have found these Dollar Tree ones to work pretty beautifully. And some of them are super sticky. I know that like the Tim Holtz ones, you barely even have to rub. You put it down on the paper and rub your finger over it, and it's going to be pretty stuck. So, and I've got others that will barely come off the backing paper. So, yeah, so if you've never seen a rub on, you can see what I'm doing. They're images of some kind on a clear transparent paper. That is an oxymoron there. On a clear it's a double whatever, on a clear paper, and then you just use some kind of rubbing tool. A popsicle stick works, or a bone folder, the back of your scissors, whatever, to rub that image on there. Like I said, you can pick some up at the Dollar Tree, but other bigger brands have their own. There's also like parchment rubs that are similar. So okay, from there, I have picked up my transparent raw umber ink, put a couple little drops down, and just moved it around just a little bit. I didn't want to wet it too much because I'm trying to remember that the original marks on there are Stabilo all pencils, which can move if I add too much water or other inks to it. Now I'm going to add another layer here, and that's some collage. I've got a bit of dictionary text there, and I think I'm going to put just a couple little pieces of that down because I don't want to cover the entire background that I've already got going on there, because it's kind of cool looking. I may have to come back and try this again because I do cover up more of it, admittedly. Spoiler, I'm going to cover up more of it than I really would like to. Let's see, that is some of the Tim Holtz, I think it's like collage paper is what it's called, but it's like a tissue paper, but with printed things on it. This one kind of looks like postage type things, and I'm putting that on my background on that dictionary paper. Yeah, I'm really liking this background. I really kind of hate that I'm going to cover it up with some other things. This is a bit of a reproduction Sears and Roebuck catalog that has been eco-dyed in some way, and I'm just adding a little bit more. Now, I think one of my problems with these 3 cards is that the color of this one comes out to end up looking a lot like the color of the first one you saw in this video. So all that kind of rusty browns, that there's not a statement piece among these 3. If there is one, it's going to be this card. Of the 3 of them, this card makes the biggest statement, I think, and you'll see as we progress. So this is a bit of a used tea bag. I had to get some of the tea that was still in it dumped into my trash can, and it's going to be another layer, but I'm going to use some fluid matte medium like I've used on the other cards. And what's great when you use this fluid medium with the tea bags is it kind of disappears, like the parts that don't have something on it. So I'm using bits of it that have a little bit of the tea stain on it so that you can see, but the rest of it's just texture. So if I do put something else on top of it, I get the texture of the tea bag. I don't know if that makes enough sense. Sometimes I'm like, it sounds right in my head, but when I listen to it later, I'm like, I was just yammering. So y'all let me know if that made sense, because I feel like the tea bag has that, I don't know, it's got a different texture than like other tissue papers. It's more fibrous feeling. So when you put something else on there, a lot of the inks and stuff catch into it because it's so fibrous. Yeah, I think that's what I mean to say. That sounds about right. So I've put that tea bag all over that card, y'all, but you can see how many layers are there. There's the original paper, and then the rub-ons and the ink, and then now this collage and tea bag. So that's a parfait. We've got a solid parfait going on here. And I'm trying to just make sure I got all the little bits of tea bag secure, and I will probably dry this real quick. Yep. And then I've got another layer that I'm going to put in here, which is some Distress Oxide spray in, I think this is antique linen. And I do spray a little bit of water on it so I can move it around a scoosh. And I'm going to dry it, but then decide that I needed something else. And what that something else, what is that something? I think it's going to be some coffee. Yep, that is my little yogurt cup that has some dried up instant coffee in it that I reconstituted with my distress sprayer, and I'll use a paintbrush to pick it up and just paint with this coffee. I do love it. Now, I believe I was hoping that it would pick up that texture of the tea bags in there. And you can see there where the antique linen kind of flattened everything out. I was hoping that this coffee would lift it just a little bit, like have more texture there. I don't know that it did it looking at it there once I tried it. So I'm using a Sharpie poster paint marker, I think, and making some different sized dots kind of all over there. And yeah, this background does not make me, I admit, this background does not make me super happy. It's okay. It's okay. That's what, again, like I said at the beginning of this, these are all just mini experiments in art to kind of figure out what you like, what you enjoy doing. And that's why I love this challenge so much. So I've taken another Sharpie paint pen, this one in white. You can see I'm kind of priming it on my underpaper and then slinging it at my card to get some nice white splatter on there. And this helps. This helps elevate this card just a little bit and bring it out of the darkness. Of course, I flipped it over there. I started to dry it, but then decided I needed a little bit more splatter in the middle. I found that was one of my biggest struggles in this whole ICAD experience was I kept adding things to the edges and not working in the middle very much. And I don't know why, because I tended to, everything tended to get added on the edges. And it was like I was afraid of the middle. So I added more gold on here with some Liquitex bright gold acrylic ink. Put basically some big and little kind of dots of that ink on there and dried it. And then I'm coming in with some of those focal elements I had pulled out of my focal box. And I'm going to mess around with all of them. I'm going to go ahead and admit to you that these little watercolor, like this little laurel there, along with, I think there's another little green, that there. I keep trying to add on there, and looking at them now, I'm like, why didn't I do that? That would have added a little bit more color. It would have added a pop of something. But I think I felt like this doily really added that brightness that I wanted. So I don't know. I kind of wish I had added those floral elements in there, and I guess I can go back and do it. I still haven't used those botanical elements. Anyway, so I'm going to mess around with this for a while, as you can see, kind of trying to decide what layout I want on this card, trying to give it a little bit more life. Of course, I'm going to ink the edges. This is more distress ink in walnut stain. And I decided I needed some movement in the background. So I did some scribbles with my chunky pencil. It didn't really add much. There's a little bit, like it gives a little more life and movement, but yeah, that really would have worked so nicely, y'all. Why didn't I do it? It felt too busy. Like, I think anything with that doily is gonna feel kind of busy, but I really wish I don't know. I wish I had. So I set my Fabri-Tac bottle upside down to try to get it to the surface while I looked at my small talk stickers to pick out a word that would fit on that little banner. Now that little banner and the doily are part of one of the new vault dies, and I say new, not very new, fairly new, and I cut them out when I got my vault dies and or this set. I ordered this set specifically and cut a couple of those out, and so that's why they were already cut, kind of sitting in my stash. And it's kind of nice when you do that. Whenever I die cut anything, I try to die cut a couple extra things so that I just have them for later. And that worked pretty great for this card particular. So as you saw, I added my Fabri-Tac to the back of my little focal girl, and then once she was stuck to the doily, added it to the back of the doily so that all of that can stick together. And I will do the same thing. I'm going to stick down. Now I had folded this banner, so it's kind of sitting up, and I was finding that I really liked that kind of 3D element of it being popped up. So when I glue this down, I'm going to glue the left side down first, and then glue the right side down, kind of squeezed in just a little bit, so I can make sure it stays popped up and give that little 3D element. Does that make sense? It just, yeah, so here I'm going to put the glue on that other one, and kind of bring it in just a little bit so it pops back up. And then I have found the word follow, or the sentiment follow your heart, on those small talk stickers that I'm going to put on the banner. I'm going to ink it up first because those stickers do have like a white edge to them around it, and I wanted that to be gone. And then I think I'll add a little bit of the ooh-hoo to make sure it sticks onto my banner. And that is it, guys. I'll give you a super quick look at this card, but then I've got close-ups of all 3 cards for y'all to see a little bit more of the details. I would love to know with this set which of the 3 you like the most. I have a hard time deciding. Like I said, these aren't 3 of my favorites, but I don't hate them. And I do have a hard time picking out which one, because they each have neat elements to them. Like, I love the cogs on the first one, and I love that kind of weird honeycomb over the second one, and then all the fun elements on the third one are really just make me happy. So I don't know, I can't decide. Let me know what you think. If you did like this, you know what to do. Thumbs up, subscribe, all those things. I will be back this week with, I know, a couple more videos. I'm trying to decide how many more. So I'll see y'all then, and thanks so much for watching. Bye.